Hey, 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 welcome to day number 11 of 21 Days of Prayer for Your Business. I feel like we've got that down on pat, like we know what to do. You hold the book up, I point of creative problem solving for 21 Days of Prayer for Your Business, creative problem solving for your business, for your life, for whatever it is that you're praying for during this time. You know the drill. This is just about life in general. You may be praying for a business idea, something that's kind of rolling around in your head. Maybe you're applying it to a relationship or a marriage or parenting. I don't know what it is that you're praying specifically for. We're just glad you're here. Go grab your notebook. If you've already been following along on these videos, you are doing your homework and we are so proud of you. If this is your first video, then we want you to grab a notebook because I get nosy Rosie, get all up in your business and ask you tons of questions. And today it's going to be like all the other days. I'm going to do the exact same thing. So be prepared. If you don't have the book, it's completely fine. We've got a link if you want it in the description of the video. We've also got a link where you can download the intro and chapter 1 if you just kind of want to have a sneak peek of what it's all about. And yeah, so let's dive in. Creative problem solving. Are you ready?
Let's go.
This is a great topic today. And I want to go ahead and give you the verse. Go ahead and write this verse down. It is James 1:5. And it's, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. And then also Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. One of the things that I've always prayed just for our...
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Okay, great.
Can we just say, like, that the verse is interesting because, like, you can have faults and still ask for wisdom and get it.
Yeah.
Like, without finding fault. That's interesting. So pretty much anybody can ask for wisdom, and he gives generously.
And generously. Like, not just like a little, not just like a snippet, like generously. That's something that we've always prayed. I mean, I can remember from when we were in school and I was journaling. I love to journal my prayers. If you are a journaler, like, you are my person. Like, I get you. Have you ever journaled your prayers? A lot of times I'm just like, it's like I'm talking, but it's like I'm talking to the Lord and then I'm just like mind dumping stuff. And I've heard people through the years go, oh, you need to like walk and pray. You need to pace and pray to stay focused. I'm thinking, the best way I can stay focused, I've tried doing all that, walking and praying, which is great.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I'm like, that's fantastic that you can do that, but I get distracted. I like look at something on the floor, I do whatever. So it's like me and my journal, that's where I stay most focused. So when it comes to being prayerful and praying, however it is that you communicate, you just do your thing and you communicate with the Lord. Okay. So
what you were saying was that you've prayed
thanks
for wisdom beyond your years.
I was like, where was I even going with that?
I got you, boo.
Thank you. So, okay, what I was praying for when we were in school was that we would have wisdom beyond our years. And I actually have always prayed that for my children. So if you've got children, man, that is a great prayer to pray. Lord, give them wisdom way beyond their years, whatever their age is. You know, and it's so interesting. We have people all the time even make comments to us, man, you're kids. And I'm like, well, I would love to take credit for that. But it's actually, I can show you in my journal right here where I've prayed that. That is all the Lord. I would love to take credit for it, but wisdom beyond your years. So I think those are some great verses to think on and to meditate on, memorize them, hide them in your heart, to go along with today's topic. But today's topic on creative problem solving, man, I was just jotting down a ton of, we have a little note section if you have the study. I hope you're using the notes section. I purposely put at the end of each chapter a page to where you could just write random notes. I love to write in my books, so I made sure to give you plenty of space to do that. So I wrote down a ton of ideas. But creative problem solving, we always like to say, we have a saying in our house, like, the bigger the obstacle, the greater the opportunity. You know, if you come to me with a problem, let's come to me with a solution. Like, let's talk about a solution. And that's just something that's kind of a known in our house, not just our business, but just really in general, we try to put that in practice. Doesn't mean that when we don't when we face problems that it doesn't feel heavy sometimes. I mean, man, we're kind of walking through some things and making some decisions right now that it feels like a pretty, I wouldn't say like overwhelming obstacle, but we see that it's an obstacle and we're like, what are some creative opportunities? What are some ways that we can kind of get around that? I felt like you were
just clear.
I was like, are you needing to interject something here? But anyway, so that's something that I found interesting. You know, I've been telling you, we're walking through this. We wrote this 6 or 7 years ago, but we're walking through this alongside with you. And every day is really hitting home on some stuff that we're specifically walking out right now. So what I mean by that is like, even though we wrote this book, it doesn't mean like we've mastered all these things.
Yeah,
it's
I was just
different seasons.
I was just thinking that, like, the whole getting back to that scripture thing, like, whenever I'm trying to figure something out, I just need to, like, stop for a second and go, Lord, give me wisdom to figure this out. And that would probably make my life a lot easier.
Yeah.
But getting back to business, a lot of times when we say, you know, the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. And that's so true, because generally if it's a problem for you, it's a problem for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if you can solve it, then that gives you the advantage, and that gives you're sort of ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
So really put on your thinking cap and like try to figure out a solution, and not only a solution for your problem, but like how can you create something that helps other people with that same problem, and that's where the real success can come.
Yeah, because they're needing help. Usually if you need help in an area and there's something that like you're working on, chances are other people are working on that too. Right now, again, I know I keep harping on it, but it's something that we're just diligently working with, but our health and wellness. I've been talking about it a lot on social media and about my numbers, like in my Instagram stories. I've been kind of sharing just like little snippets every day of things I'm walking through and just kind of showing people what the numbers are. And what's interesting is like, one, I don't feel like a lot of people who have followed me per se on social media through the years have really been, not that they're not all up into like, you know, all of the numbers and all of the data and stuff, but it's like it's something new that I'm talking about, and it's interesting the people who are coming to the table who are saying they've been watching this and this is helping them, and you almost wonder like, does anybody even care that I'm saying this? But it's something that they're trying to work on too, and when I can find ways that it's helping me, then it's going to help somebody else if they're trying to grow in that same area. Like in regards to sleep, you know, and I'll drop this in the comments. We just wrote a blog post of all the ways that we've been trying to work on our sleep and kind of get better quality sleep. And before we started working on our sleep, I wouldn't have told you that I thought we had bad sleep until we started really diving into, it's not just the hours that you're in bed, but like, what is the quality? What is your deep sleep like? What is your REM sleep like? What are all of these things? And as we started studying, we're like, oh, let's start doing some creative problem solving here. And anyway, I shared all of that. But what I'm trying to say is, as other people have come to the table and they're dealing with sleep stuff, that's something that as I've worked it on my own life and I share about it, it's going to help other people. While that's not really about business, you know, in a roundabout way, it's still the same concept that you can use.
Well, we had done some health coaching on and off, and one of the guys that we were talking to, he was like, and you could, I'm going to relate it to health, but you can think of it as your business or anything like this, is think of it like a bucket and it has holes in it, and you're just trying to like plug one hole, not all the holes at one time, just one hole at a time, and that keeps every one hole that you fix keeps more water from leaking out and more water from leaking out, and you just get better at it. And we talked about that the other day. We were just saying that we are pretty good at like taking one thing at a time, sort of figuring it out. And so it's the same thing in business. It's like, just figure out one solution to one problem, and then, you know, you just keep working at it, and eventually the bucket doesn't have holes and it holds water.
Yeah.
But every one of those is an opportunity to show other people how to do it as well.
Yes, yes. And honestly, in regards to business, that's how you're going to grow, is when you're helping other people grow. And so that's a huge, huge key. Let me grab my, so how do you, what I ask in here first is, how does it make you feel when problems present themselves? I mean, do you go into freak out mode? Do you go into the sky's falling, the end is near? Like how does it make you feel? And do you instantly think like there's no hope, or is your mind geared to what can I do to fix this? Obviously go to the Lord. I thought about you saying one of these days in the videos how you tend to see it sounds bad, but you tend to see the things that need to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that's interesting with you is you don't necessarily think it's like you go into creative problem solving mode. You know what I'm saying? Like your mind goes to, you might see the problems, but you still try to find solutions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times your strength is your weakness, and so my weakness is that I can be critical all the time and be negative, but I try to use it as a strength and go, okay, like we own a organic juice shop, and I tell the people there, like, if you walk by something and you ask why something is the way it is more than once, you need to figure out what the answer to that question is. Like, why is this pipe leaking? Like, okay, well, if you walk by it again and you're like, why is this pipe still leaking? Then you need to tell somebody or figure out a solution to fix it. And so that's what I try to live by is, like, when I see something that's, because that's what my eye is drawn to, how can I fix it?
Can you think of times in your own life through the years that you have seen an obstacle and you've created an opportunity from it? That's something for you to kind of write down in your notebook. Think on that. Like, this happened, thought it was a pretty big issue. Then I kind of thought about it for a second and was like, this is a great solution. I'm going to give you a couple examples that I wrote down. In regards to parenting, when Alyssa turned about 13, she hit this little funk in life. 13, 14. 13. Jared remembers it very vividly. And she just really kind of didn't want to talk about anything. She just was kind of like blasé. And we really kind of saw that
which
as...
was different for her.
Yeah, which was different for her. And we saw that as a little bit of an obstacle of kind of like, what's going on here? And Jared turned it into an opportunity. And he figured, well, her love language is quality time. So this problem that we're having is going to create an opportunity for me to figure out how to help in this area. And that is going to be take her out on a date night. Y'all did it very often, if not once a week. Y'all would go to sushi and a movie. And you would that's when you started taking to her a lot of football games. And because her love language is quality time and she loved football. And so these things, we could have just seen, she's 13, she's going through a funk. I mean, this is just what teenagers do and blah, blah, blah. But no, how can we create it into an opportunity to grow in this area? Like, we don't just have to fall over and give up. Like, we can create an opportunity from it. Another thing that I thought about was Max is our son-in-law, and I think it was before him and Elena got married. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. But he was over at our house one day, and I don't know what he was wanting to buy or do, but he asked to borrow some money. And we said, no. I don't know what it was. We just said no. And he goes out of the house, and he comes back a few hours later, and he owned a pressure washer. And he comes back and he was like, I just made $1,300. And we were like, what? He was like, I just made $1,300. He said, I went out to a neighbor's house, asked him if he wanted me to pressure wash everything. I think he pressure washed around the house. He did all the driveway. He did all of this stuff. Made $1,300. And I was like, that's insane. Like, that's a lot of money. And then he started going around to all the neighbors in the neighborhood, and he started pressure washing, and he was getting job after job after job. And then one thing leads to another, and now he's got contracts for Amazon warehouses. He's about to, I think, sign a contract with a big convention center here in town. He's got stuff all over different states, and he just recently had someone come in and buy out part of his business for them to franchise. And I'm like, that started from an obstacle of him needing some money. And we said, we don't really have any right now to loan you. And we probably did, but we just said no. And what happens, he went out and sought after an opportunity. And I think that's something really cool. And that is revolved around business. He could have just been like, oh, well, whatever it was he was wanting to do, I'm just not going to get to do it. But no, he said, how can I? There's some quote out there that says, I think it's in T. Harv Ecker's Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. We'll drop a link in the description. Don't forget all of these that I say drop a link. We need to start taking notes when I say these things, because when we go to upload these videos, I'm like, what all did we say that we were going to link to in this video?
Sleep Post.
Your sleep post.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Got it.
But T. Harv Eker says, the difference between a poverty mindset and a millionaire mindset is that a poverty mindset, it's not how can I, it's not can I, it's how can I? How can I do this? So good. And then the next thing I'm just going through some obstacles. I'm just like taking trips down memory lanes of times that we created opportunities. About last year, we were flying international overseas, and I don't really care much about flying first class. I'll take it if we get upgraded, but I really want to be upgraded when it comes to an overnight flight. That's, any upwards of 10 plus hours.
Just to be clear, we always pay for the main cabin.
We pay for the main cabin
but
with the hopes and prayer
yes.
to the dear Lord in heaven that we're going to get upgraded, because we fly the same airline a lot. And this specific time, we had put in like a little thing, a global pass to get upgraded for the international flight. And we faithfully checked every single day, all the way up to the day of the flight. And there was like several seats left. And it comes to the day of the flight and the seats are gone. And I'm like, I call the place. Or no, I think there were two seats.
No, they weren't gone. We just didn't.
They weren't gone. I'm sorry. I call the place and she goes, oh, actually, you're not on the waiting list. You had to purchase not a main cabin seat, but a premium select seat.
Which they did not tell us.
And I was like, oh no. And I was like, you didn't tell us that. And I've been checking every day and everybody's reassured me we're on the list.
I think we'd actually called 2 or 3 times after that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
no one ever said anything. We were like, we just didn't know.
So I was like, oh no. And she's like, well, if I could find another flight that had the seats available, we would definitely give them to you. So I was like, oh, shoot. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to give up. And I went and searched around and I found a flight when we were in Atlanta. We had a long layover. I found a flight that left from Detroit that got us there at the same time that had tons of seats available. And I just went up to an agent, asked them, and they're like, oh, yeah, we can switch you. If you can get down to gate so-and-so, you can get to Detroit and you'll have the first class seats for free. And I'm like, praise Jesus. But it was kind of an obstacle, but I knew there had to be an opportunity out there if we could search for it. I really wanted that first class seat. So anyway, obstacles create opportunities. And even as of right now, we had all of our grandkids up there and we had the little bit of obstacle of, we've got to do this video. What are we going to do? And so I'm calling in my mother, different kids, come in here. No, you got to sit with the kids because we got to go do this video. Creative problem solving. What are some of things that you can think of that you have creatively found solutions, whether it's in your business or in your family? Anything you want to add to that?
Nope.
Okay. So again, I'm going to just leave you with some verses one more time. Today's video was short and sweet. But it's very important. One last story, and I'll end.
I did have a point. I'm just looking for it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to tell the
Keep
story
going.
while you look for the point. I don't know what book this was in that I read. But it talks about this guy who was his first day orientation at work, and his boss was walking him around and giving him kind of the lay of the land and introducing him to the office. And they walk by this one big empty office room, huge room with this beautiful view of the city. and all it had was a chair in front of the window. And the guy that was the new hire was like, what is this? Who is this office for? And he's like, basically, this guy, he's like our highest paid. He gets paid millions. And he was like, well, I want this guy. Like, what does he do? Basically, all he does is sit there and he thinks. And he's like, what? Like, seriously, he sits there and he thinks? But what the boss was saying is he thinks of our $1 million ideas. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, he thinks of these, he uses his brain and he creatively finds solutions. And that's how, you know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? That's kind of a random story, but it came to my mind when I was reading it and just then.
Yeah,
there's much value to that.
There's one time she used to get like these business magazines when we would fly, and one time she was reading in one that millionaires, I think they were under the age of 30 or something.
Oh yeah.
They had like 17 businesses before they figured out,
One
but they
that
just
works.
kept trying to problem solve and fix things, and eventually they hit one that made them a millionaire.
Yeah,
So that was
and we would kind of make jokes like that. Like, you talked the other day about how you started, the trash can cleaning service. You tried another thing, did another thing. Like, sometimes you just got to do several things, and if it doesn't work out, we're like, well, we're one closer to that next thing. I did think of one more thing. As I was writing down in my notes, we're talking about our little juice shop that we have. There will be times that we'll watch, and like one of the juiceristas will make a drink and they make it wrong. Like, they make the wrong drink for somebody and they go, Miss so-and-so, it's a blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, that's not what I ordered. And we say, instead of chunking it in the garbage, that's like, how can we creatively use this? Well, go get some sample cups out and let's pour all of that out that just messed up and let everyone in here sample it that's standing around, because now maybe the next time they come in, they found something new that they like. So it's not a problem. How can we take the problem and turn it into an opportunity? And that's just something that I think over time, after you do it long enough, it becomes wired into a part of who you are, that we just can't see obstacles and failures and mess ups and things as horrible. How can it be created into something good?
Talking about failures, we were just talking about this at the gym this morning, which I thought was interesting because she's got a whole little paragraph in here about try again. Russ was saying he was reading some book and it was saying that they didn't like the word failure. They was like, you just found the limit to your capacity at that time.
That's so good.
So,
I do not like the word failure.
you just found the limit to your capacity for right now.
Yeah.
So then, figure out a way around it.
That's so good. If you can learn something from it, it is not failure. And like Jeremiah said, sometimes it takes trying something and then trying something. And then if you try something that doesn't work, guess what you learned? You learned that doesn't work. So you learned something from it. Like, there was good that came from it. I know in one of our businesses before, we had two communities of people. And we tried this like contest giveaway incentive type thing for one group, and we actually used it in both groups. It was like, one was a cash prize of like $1,000 we were giving away, and we did it in both groups, and it was like went off fantastic in this one group, and then this other group, like, nobody was really motivated by it. And I was so like, what in the world? This is so weird. Like, this group was totally going like totally after it, and this group was just like crickets. And so then the next month, I decided to do this contest to where if you did XYZ, which is pretty much the same from the other, you're going to get 10 gold stars. Do you remember that? Like, you're going to get 10 gold stars. You were going to get a high five. These people over here
Went berserk.
And I'm like...
And she would literally like go to the internet and like just...
I was like
copy
finding
and
gold
paste.
stars, and I would be like, 10 gold stars. I'm like, what is happening here? But I've learned something. It wasn't a failure that these people didn't want to go after the $1,000 cash prize. What I learned is these people were there was a roadblock for them when they thought that a money was attached to it. Somehow in their mind, they had a block of, I'm only doing it for the money, or there's something like, you know what I'm saying? It was a blocker for them. So I learned something in that. It was not a failure. It created an opportunity for me to learn how to encourage and motivate a different group of people. So intriguing. So I encourage you, whatever it is that you're praying about, whether it's business, whether it's, again, like I even said with parenting, I mentioned that with Alyssa, in your relationships with your marriage, like, is it a weekend getaway that you can do, or a staycation, or is there something that you can, do to help with that relationship, or whatever it is. Like, apply these principles to this. I'm telling you, you will see major, major momentum in whatever it is that you're going after.
One more analogy.
Okay.
We've talked a little bit about roadblocks, but like we haven't really talked about dead end roads. And I think this creative problem solving is the perfect time for that, because a lot of times we get going down a road and we spend a lot of time, energy, money, whatever it is, going down that path or that road. And at some point you kind of know it's a dead end road. And it's like, are you, no, it doesn't matter if you keep going down that road. It's not going to change the fact that it's a dead end road. And a lot of people, they just cannot turn around. And so my advice would be to stop, turn around, go back, and then find a different path.
Yeah, we're kind of walking through that right now and asking ourselves a lot of questions like, okay, what are we feeling about this particular situation? What are we feeling about, like, do we keep moving forward? Honestly, if there weren't any obstacles, would we keep moving forward? Like we're having to ask ourselves a lot of questions, and it is hard. We kind of make these comments like it's just easy to create a problem solve or easy to know when to stop and turn around. It's not. I mean, if I had to tell you, my sleep has not been good the last few nights because I am processing a lot and I am thinking through a lot, and it's hard. But how Jer and I right now are getting through situations, and maybe a few months down the road, we'll be at a place that we can talk about it more. But like, we're having to ask ourselves that, like, one, is it weighty? How do we feel? Why are we doing this? And would we do it if everything was peachy keen? Would we keep taking this path?
Yeah, I feel like it's not always easy to figure out if it's a dead end road or not, but it does get easier, and it doesn't get easier to course correct, but it gets easier to know that you should.
Well, yeah, I have lots of thoughts on that. And again, I'm excited. I'm excited that we're walking through this right now because it applies so much to where we are, and I'm sure that's what your story is right now too. Like, you maybe have big decisions, or should you pursue something, should you not pursue something, and we're all doing the right thing by going to the Lord. We can think through things, and the Lord wants us to use our brain, and He does want us to take action. He does want us. The good thing is that we've got Him that we can turn to, going all the way back to giving God control. And honestly, just saying, we're going to keep moving, Lord, and trust that you're going to stop something. That is how we're praying right now in the situation of what we're dealing with, is like, Lord, we're going to take these steps, but we trust you that you will completely shut it off if it's not what we're supposed to do, because our human minds have to make a decision, but like, we don't want to be outside of your perfect will. And so if this is not it, we give you free will. Please shut the door. We're begging of you. But if it is, like, then let it continue to move forward, and the opportunities present itself for us to make these decisions to play out. And it's hard. It's very, very hard when you're in the middle of it. But I'm thankful, and that is how we pray. That's how we pray. Lord, shut the door. And He has done that time and time again. We were looking for land in Utah. This will be the last thing I say. We were looking for land in Utah a few years back, and we had the money, and time after time after time, crazy things would pop up. I mean, like, you have the money in your business account, and the business account needs to be shown over here, and this account we can't close. And then the people we couldn't close for like 30 days, and then the other people already had another buyer. And I'm like, it was like random stuff. Down to, we were going to put a contract on another house, and somebody out of the blue just sent me a message that just confirmed to me. They had no clue what we were doing. Jer saying, come on. And I knew that was a confirmation that we were not supposed to make that decision. And that's just how I've asked the Lord, you know, confirmation, closed door, open door, open door. So anyway, okay. I have to tell you guys when my husband is giving
She
me...
shouldn't, though.
I
Because
shouldn't.
you can't see it.
You can't see his hand, but I can see his hand that he's saying wrap it up. And so I have to tell you that my husband is saying wrap it up. So anyway, tomorrow is all about building community, which is a great topic that we want you to come back for in the next video. And I'm going to turn it over to Jeremiah to do his closing
All right.
remarks.
If you like this video or you just didn't hate it, give us a big thumbs up. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing to our channel, that would help us out a lot. And maybe tell somebody else they might want to subscribe.
Yes.
Also, if you want to be in the know when a new video posts, like me, love that, hit the notification bell, get all the notifications.
Yes, we want you to do that. I did think of something. Oh, yeah, I know. I was going to say, if you have a friend that's going through some things, that's like trying to figure out send them this video, like creative problem solving. You have a friend who's dealing with some perfectionism, send them the video that we just did on perfectionism. You need to go watch it too. All right. We'll see you later on the next video. Bye.